Okay. Good morning. We are here in FEEM with Professor Rick van der Ploeg. Thank you very much. Professor van der Ploeg is a professor of University of Oxford, Amsterdam, and there are a lot. It's a very long list of papers you wrote. I have to say that it's also in the top ranking of our rankings in energy economics, environmental economics, and also resource economics. Yesterday I checked again because it's not the first time we met, and you are in the top 10 in the world. So yeah, it's a very so I appreciate you have accepted to be here in FEEM. And we start with list of, we have a series of events. This is the first event. The main topic is about inequality. For each event we have a word. The fourth word today is transition. So it's more related on energy transition, what will be the transition in the future. The second will be on adaptation. We have another on generation. We have another topic about sustainability. So we speak about distribution and citizenship. These will be the sixth event. Okay, looking at your research, and also we have wrote a very long list of papers which could combine all these words in sense related to inequality.
Yes, so those words are extremely important. So inequality hits everything. So for example, if you think first within a generation, there may be poor people, lesser educated people, and higher income people, rich people. There may be people who are vulnerable because they may be living close to a sea or a river, so they're vulnerable to flooding risk. And there may be people who live on top of the hill and they're not vulnerable. So inequality is very, very important. There's also young people and old people, hence the generational aspect. So if you think about climate change, how does it hit the poor? It hits it quite a lot because there's a lot of evidence that poor countries get hit much more by climate change than rich countries. And that within a country, the poor people get hit most. Why is that, for example? Many poor families live next to busy roads. So they inhale a lot of bad particles. Yeah. So they get a lot of lung issues. And these children may live 5 to 10 years shorter than people who don't live to a close road and don't go to a school close to that road. So and we also know that the inequality is that the emissions are done in the rich Western countries, whereas most of the damages are done in, say, Africa or poorer countries. So inequality is at the core of climate change. And then when you're trying to do something about it, most people think in the first place, well, let's do a carbon tax.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm all in favor of. But of course, carbon taxes are highly regressive. They hit the poor more than the rich. So you can see why it's a very big issue for a policy problem. On the one hand, global warming affects the poor more than the rich. But then the objective, the instrument to do something about it, carbon pricing, hits the poor also more than the rich. So we really cannot think about these issues without redistribution. Now coming to the point of adaptation, which is not the same thing as mitigation. Having a carbon tax means that you're trying to reduce emissions, which is called mitigation of global warming. But adaptation means, for example, you build a dike, or you build a flood defense, or you invest in new crops that are heat resistant. Now the thing with those things is that, or you might invest maybe in a different car, electric car.
Yeah.
That most people who can adapt most easily are those people that are rich. And those people that are not capital constrained, those people that can borrow, for example, to put a heat pump in the house, or to maybe elevate their houses, they can actually borrow from the bank, and there's no issue. But most people cannot. So the majority of people there they're more vulnerable to flooding risk and other risk, heat stress, storms. But they're not only more vulnerable, they can't do anything about it, they're stuck. So there you see that for both mitigation and adaptation, the whole issue of inequality is absolutely crucial. So we see also when you mentioned the word sustainability and the word transition, which is these are really important. It's not really about having an economy and making it a bit greener.
Yeah.
No, you really want to go from a very bad equilibrium, which is where we are now, to that you want people to switch. You don't want them to use the car a little bit. No, you want them to have a different type of car, which is electrical. You don't want them to use a bit of less central heating, use less gas. No, you want them to have a different energy system based on solar. So you want them people to switch from the that's a transition, that's to make sustainability durable investment goods. And those durable investment goods again are a problem for local people. So, and I finished with the comment about Macron and the protest of the yellow vests. And why did they protest so much when Macron said that most poor people, they can't change from their diesel car to an electrical car. They see all the subsidies going to people who own Teslas. So these are the rich people. So what you will see is you will just get the beginnings of a revolution, beginnings of protest, beginnings of populism.
Yeah.
So that's the conundrum in which we are. So I think those words, and I should compliment you, are very well chosen, and I think they will lead to lots of fruitful debates.
Okay, thank you. So related to this, I have to say that according to what you're saying now, I have other ideas related to. So one related topic on this is related to the book that Robert Pindike wrote, the last paper that he wrote, that is the main topic is also on climate, also on adaptation.
Yeah.
In the book, there is also written about insurance.
Right.
But it could be a manner in order to, to work on this problem related to climate change. But if we look at what happened in the last month in Los Angeles with the fires, and so this all that was this destruction of a reduction of places that due to this high level of problems related to climate change. The point is not possible to insure some places because the cost is too high.
Right.
And so again, inequality is related to this point. It could be an instrument for the future, and which could be the manner in order to use this.
So first, the main point of Professor Pindike.
Yeah.
He says really it's all about adaptation.
Yeah.
So, and many more people are thinking, well, carbon taxes is not happening. In the meantime, the world is affected by floods, by droughts, by extreme heat, by storms. So we really should do something, adapt. And I think he's right. So then there are two things. Of course, in the longer term, you have to invest in new crops, in new dikes, new flood defenses, new type of housing. These that are heat resistant. And then secondly, you need to look at insurance. Indeed, a lot of my research is now about climate insurance,
Exactly.
catastrophic insurance. And insurance companies are very, very interested in that. But you are right, some of these risks are so large that either the premiums will be so high that poor people can't afford it, or the market will just not come down. So there will always be a role for the government to provide the backup insurance. Now here's the problem. The problem is time inconsistency. So the problem is the government says, look, there are some areas where you shouldn't live. It's just too dangerous. I live I have a house on the south coast of England, and it's very susceptible to erosion. So then the British government has said some things we will protect and other things we don't protect, we give back to the sea. Obviously, Venice, you don't give back to the sea, you want to protect it. But there are other bits which may be less valuable, you give to the sea and it may actually be good. So if the government is not clear on that, so then they say, look, if you're going to live there, we are not going to help you if the flood comes, because it's so risky. Then, of course, once the flood comes, there'll be political pressure for the government to help. Now the last point about the firestorms. Trump and Elon Musk have just decided to have enormous cuts in fire protection.
Okay.
So normally you have to burn a lot of dry material when the risk of fire is not so large, in order to prevent huge fires in the future. So they've done a lot of good work on that, and now they've been cut by lots and lots of people are fired. So that the whole fire issue and how to deal with it will become even more problematic than it already is.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a big problem for the
So I don't think you can just cut people who are trying to protect forests and to stop fires, that you can just fire those people you do that at your peril.
Yeah. Okay, you spoke about Trump. So, looking also at a Trump election, we have now this debate. Also, the last 3 days ago in Rome, we had Stiglitz, and there was an interview on Stiglitz about again inequality, because it wrote a paper, and about tariffs.
Yep.
So the point is now Trump introduced tariffs, and also there is a debate. Also, all the other countries now, also Europe, is thinking about tariffs. So the point is how tariffs could affect the energy transition, and also inequality again, so growth rate and inequality.
So the first thing, what's happening in America is a takeover. We now have something which is beginning to look more and more like authoritative dictatorship.
Yeah.
So the objective is not just to cut money on the civil servants, but just to get chaos. Then what the idea is of these new people is that, like the Russians and the Chinese, they want to go back to colonial dictatorships where you grab land, you grab Greenland, you grab a part of the Ukraine, so yeah, we help Ukraine, but you must give us your critical materials.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a lot of grabbing of land, for Greenland, the Panama Canal is something differently, in a way we saw maybe the end of the 19th century, but not where we are now.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And then the second thing which characterizes the Trump administration is that they are mercantilists. So they really think England is okay because England has a deficit for trade with the United States. Germany is bad because they have a big surplus. They sell much more stuff to America than America sells to Europe. So that hurts Trump. But that means he has not understood even the first principle of international trade. You could even argue the fact that Germany exports so much to America, it means that that money has to go somewhere. The money they get from the exports, where does the money go? They invest it back in the American economy.
Yeah, okay.
The biggest investors in America are countries like the Netherlands and Germany, countries with big current account surpluses. Not Britain, because they've got current account deficits. So he doesn't understand that for every current account surplus, there's a capital flow coming into your country. But anyway, he's got this view. So as you said, that will engender a trade war. So other countries will respond with other tariffs, and tariffs that will hurt the Americans most. Tariffs on bourbon whiskey, tariffs on Harley Davidson. And then of course what will happen is you will find that the world economy will slow down in a few years' time. Yeah. So that's good for emissions. Yeah. But it's bad for inequality, and it's bad for that's not what we want. That's not the right way to do it. So it means that that's the backdrop to this border tax. So Europe says, when you're a rational thinker, you say, look, we want all people who sell to Europe to have paid the same carbon tax as people as firms within Europe have to do. So we want to have a level playing field. So then they would basically say, if you come in Europe and if you haven't paid taxes in your own country, you have to pay us. I think that's perfectly fine, and clearly the WTO will have to allow it. Everybody's doing tariffs. But of course, now I think it's a secondary issue compared with the big tariff wars that are going to be 25% tariffs, the stuff going on between China and America, the stuff between Europe and America. That's a first order thing. And the border tax adjustment was just a simple something to kind of basically avoid carbon leakage. So for those who don't know, carbon leakage is that if you do unilateral climate policy within Europe, then some of the production of emissions will move outside Europe. So therefore you reduce emissions within Europe, but you increase emissions outside.
Yeah.
So one way to avoid it is a carbon tax adjustment, a border tax.
Yeah.
So the European Commission, particularly Luis Garicano, who is a well-known economist, who was also a member of the European Parliament.
Okay.
He prepared a lot of the work for that. So that's fantastic work, and we should be glad that that's done. But again, that's all rational. But now the backdrop is an irrational trade war.
Yeah.
And also the backdrop is a big grab for natural resources, where you say Ukraine, where you say basically Putin is okay. You say the Chinese have been grabbing natural resources in the African continent for decades. The Russians think it's important, and now the big fight is what's happening in the North Pole, what's happening in Greenland, what's happening to those natural resources there. And Trump has decided that that's too important not to grab it. So it's an old fascist. So it's just like what the Dutch East Indian Company did in its day. You just go out to abroad and you just say, we want it, and you have to give it to us because we're the strongest. It's happened when the Belgians went to Congo, and they raped Congo. They took all the natural resources. So that's the world to which Trump wants to go to. It is the evil world of land grabs and the evil world of stealing the natural resources of people, not caring at all about indigenous people. So that's something we have to, that's the main thing that we have to worry about.
We are worried about the future, no?
Yeah.
Also, I link this to other things with a book written by Mike Spence.
Yeah.
The title is fragmentation, the word fragmentation. So this word that is becoming more and more fragmented, in different blocks.
Yeah.
In between there is, so the blocks are US on the one hand, China, Russia and so on. In between there is Europe.
Yep.
So yesterday Mario Draghi have spoken about this. So he wrote this document about productivity, and so we could be the strategies. And one point was Europe must wake up because otherwise we will go in a not a good future. Which could be your idea about this?
Well, these are two very important people. We have Michael Spence, the Nobel Prize winner, and then Mario Draghi. Well, he's a hero. Look what he did at the European Central Bank as Prime Minister of Italy. He was very good. Maybe boring, but he's a hero. So, first point, yes, the world is getting fragmented. The old hegemony, the whole power structure of the Americans is also being, as India and China grow and Russia is already strong, the world is going to be these four multipolar worlds.
Yeah.
Europe is looking rather sad. Europe is not in a good state. We have Michelangelo, we have Leonardo da Vinci, we have Rembrandt, we have Turner, we have all the we have a great past, but we really don't have young generations. We're getting older and older and older, so we're not getting children. I believe that Italy, but correct me if I'm wrong, maybe in a few decades the population will be a quarter smaller. And it's the same true throughout all Europe. So the only reason why some population may still not grow a little bit or don't decline even more is because of migration. And yet that's the biggest policy issue. And a stumbling issue. So really we see enormous cuts in labor supply, more older people who need to be financed for their old age, they need to finance for their healthcare, their pension. So Europe isn't a big problem. Secondly, Europe isn't a big problem because it doesn't have natural resources. Or if it does, it doesn't explore them. So it doesn't have any real marketable power. So the Trump sees very well, if I get the critical materials for the green transition, I'm powerful. He knows that 60 to 70% of critical materials are in hands of the Chinese. Europe is it's just irrelevant. So therefore it feels the threat of Russia as well. Then comes in Draghi, and Draghi just is a rational man. He's not an irrational guy. He looks at the data, and so the graphs people should look at. You look at productivity growth in America, it goes like that, and Europe was always like that, and now Europe is falling off. The gap between European productivity and American productivity is growing. So we're lagging behind. We do not have any big companies in the new tech. One or two perhaps, but not. We don't. All the big high-tech companies, and don't forget that these gaming companies and these high-tech companies, whether it's Google or whether it is all of these companies, they are often much bigger than the companies we think of as big. They're bigger than Shell, bigger than Philips, bigger than Unilever, bigger than many of the things that we think of the big companies. So we're missing out on that. And then if you look at the amount that we spend on education and research in Europe, it's laughable. It's not enough. And we don't have enough competition just where it matters. So all the recommendations that Mario Draghi makes, they should have been implemented as soon as the report came out. It was about a year ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then the politicians are sitting on their hands. They're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So there's really now, it's 1 minute to 12. Europe is graying, doesn't have any natural resources. We could have some natural resources, like Poland and Portugal, they have critical materials, but we should think about it. And thirdly, we're really falling behind. If I say what's the best European company, I'd probably say it's ASML. It's a Dutch company, and they make the wafer machines that make the chips. There are only 2 companies like that in the world, one in Taiwan and one in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. But of course, but that's the only one we have in the Netherlands, and maybe the only one we have in Europe. Maybe there are a few others, but like the big car companies in Europe, say in Germany,
Yes.
they've lost the boat. They've lost the game.
They've lost completely.
Well, they're behind because
Yeah.
I mean the Chinese are much ahead on it, on getting small electrical cars. So we'll see. Maybe they'll catch up, but so far it doesn't look good. If you just look at the figures, they have to cut personnel and things like that. So we see a continent which is also, and the fourth problem for the European continent, I said, graying of the population, no natural resources, no proper productivity strategy. And the fourth problem is that it's politically divided.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who to call in Europe. Who's the boss of Europe? You have to call 20 people. And that means that it's just not very effective. So we all dislike dictatorships, like Putin and Trump now, but you know who to call. Whereas in Europe, to get agreement on some policies, I mean, I think we got a good president. She's all right, but it's so much more difficult. So we have a lot of political lethargy.
Yeah. But
that's the fourth problem we have in Europe. We should try to get cut through the bureaucracy, cut through the political inertia, to be able to react more quickly. And if we don't, we're lost.
No, it's clear. This problem related to political point of view is so related to what is also show the passage rate of some laws in European Parliament. No?
Yeah, of course.
It's decreasing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, on Europe, of course, you pass those laws, and they're more careful, more considerate. There's, of course, if you're right wing and if you're a libertarian, it's easy to cut laws, it's easy to make laws and not worry about the environment, not worry about pollution. So that's maybe a reason. But the main reason why it's so slow in Europe is that you have to get agreement by all people. And that can always be blocked by Orban or somebody else.
Yeah. But it's one of the problems related to democracy, maybe too much. I don't know. Which could be the solution on that?
Well, I'm a convinced European, but you need more strong people like Jacques Delors, Mario Draghi, and I think our president is not a bit to be in control to get people across. But now you see that, of course, for political reasons, both Germany and France, they should be the engine of growth, the political engine, the power. They both struggle within because France, Le Pen may get into power, and of course, Germany has election problems. The government is not in a strong position. The extreme right is getting up. And then, of course, Trump meddling in Europe, trying to kind of make the extreme right even stronger. So that all of that is basically, I think, it's strategy of Trump. He's a clever chap. It's basically to destabilize Europe. So now you should now think, America is no longer an ally of Europe. America is now an enemy. So Russia is not a friend; it's an enemy. So now, and what did we do? We always relied for our protection on America and Russia.
Yeah.
So the Germans and Europe relied on their gas on Putin, and we relied for our defense. Remember former Yugoslavia? America will help us. So now we get a wake-up call. That's the only good thing about Trump. That get your own house in order. You failed. You cannot defend yourself. So we will have to kind of increase our defense budgets. We'll have to increase people going in, into young people will probably have to serve. maybe we have to go to 5 or 10%, but at least 5%. That'll be costly, much more costly than the green transition. Let's call that the defense transition, which will have to happen at the same time as the green transition. And we can't be complacent because we're on our own. And that's I think we can manage it, but it requires very strong political action. Just when we're still having problems getting those strong political action. Yeah. Nobody will be there to help us. So we have to kind of be strong ourselves. Perfectly possible, but you need to have the political power to do it and the political will to do it. And with France and Germany under great uncertainty, you see that England is now taking more action, the United Kingdom, and that's because Keir Starmer, their Prime Minister, now has such a large majority. Yeah. He can afford to take action and to lead. But we don't see the leadership coming from France or Germany where it should have come. Maybe even more from Italy than from France or Germany, strangely enough. Because Mrs. Meloni, well, turned out from a European prospect to be less bad than everybody expected.
Okay,
that's my view, but
good for us.
That's a separate discussion.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Also because you work on that. No, you will be also. So you was also a politician. No?
Yeah.
You was involved
but we can't talk about this issue without taking account of the politics. That's the point.
Yeah.
And politics is also inequality. It reacts to that.
Yeah. But it's very difficult.
And politics is shaped by inequality. If you leave all these people behind, also in a green transition, then people will look for the luck elsewhere. If they see high energy prices, high inflation, and they say the green transition is a toy for the elite, they will look for magicians, populist magicians. And that's what's happening in Germany and France. So we have to be very careful that if you do green transition, to make sure you get everybody along.
Yeah, it's a big problem. So to solve this is not so easy. So because the picture is very complex, especially in Europe. Yeah. And about this, so looking at this problem, so the problem, I have to say also a sentence on this. So there is a fragmentation also inside Europe. Mario Draghi's the idea also is to use a debt. So the idea is to have a big debt in order to relaunch this. And I'm thinking about what you are saying also, maybe we are losing also because speaking about Europe, European people, also because we have no resources. We are, in the past we had the colonialism, and now at the moment we reduce this part, while in the same time the other countries, so the big powers have.
So we have this huge colonial past.
Yeah.
The United Kingdom, Belgium, the Netherlands, France.
Yeah.
So African countries see us as former colonizers.
Yeah.
So they and rightly so. So and then they also see us as always telling them off. So it's not strange that some of these countries are turning to China. And now maybe because I think Trump will try to copy the Chinese strategy, will also I wouldn't be surprised if America went more to these land grab deals. Give me your natural resources, I'll build an airport, I'll build a road or a school for you. And I think on that front, Europe may also lose out. I mean, the Francophone part of Africa is no longer so loyal to France as it used to be.
Yeah.
So just.
Yeah. About this, so looking at Africans also colonialism. One of the points is also critical materials. No? You have spoken about this, but it is also related to another topic that we will be with the next question about international and intelligence. No, and artificial intelligence. The next question will be this. One is now related to the critical materials. So we are speaking about resource cores. So we have written some papers also. So these books are related on this. So resource cores could be also related to critical materials. It's another manner to. And I link another question because it's related to another topic that is green paradox. The idea is that is one of your topic speaking about. So the idea is we given that we have a carbon tax. But the idea of a carbon tax is to reduce the CO2 emissions, but America and so on, other countries, given that they know that in the future the oil and gas will reduce their value, they are extracting more, and so they are polluting more in the short run. So it's a comparison. Is correct my interpretation of what is?
Yeah.
Is.
So
Looking at these two topics related. So on the one hand, we have the policy of US at the moment. We are looking at they are extracting more, and one of the points that I'm looking at is that they are extracting too much, because if I look at the reserves of US, it's not at the top. The top is Venezuela, Russia, and others.
Yeah.
So they're reducing their consuming more than, and also they're using shale oil and shale gas. So they're extracting more. So I think they are over the peak, my point of view. So maybe green paradox is acting now but it's interpreted in the right manner. Second point is there is resources, so course related to.
So there are 2 points. So take
Yeah.
the critical materials first quickly. So there is a scramble. There is a race for natural resources, and these critical materials they're everywhere. Lithium, cobalt, you name it. You need, but it is as the Americans have already said in their Ministry of Defense reports that more than 2/3 is in hands of the Chinese. So we have to think of something, but of course it's very difficult. If you're going to say, kind of search for lithium, that may be possible, but then of course there'll be a lot of pollution. So everybody wants it, but not in their backyard.
Yeah.
So there may be resource skills, but in the first instance, it's just how do you get it off the ground in the first place. So we need to think about it. Let's keep that answer short and then go to the second question. I would like to rephrase it.
Yeah.
I think there are 2 issues. The important issue is something called transition risk.
Yeah. Okay.
Transition risk. And what is transition risk? Is that there's not much happening on climate, but everybody's committed to be done by 2050. So at some point, governments will have to increase their climate policy, make it more ambitious, price carbon more green subsidies and things like that. So if people know that, then if you're a fossil fuel firm, if you're a brown firm, then you think, or a steel firm, or an aluminium firm, a cement firm, these firms have a lot of emissions. Then you think, oh, it's better to produce now, because if the government switches in 10 years' time to a really ambitious climate policy, I'm out of business. So these guys, it's a bit like musical chairs. They know at some point the music will stop.
Yes.
And then there's one chair taken away. Where can they sit? So these people will overproduce. That's a green paradox. So they will kind of accelerate their production of fossil fuel, therefore accelerate emissions and accelerate global warming. So that's the big. But it's really at the heart of it is transition risk. The heart of it is the government would say, look, we're committing to a gradually rising ambition of climate policy the next 30 years. Maybe we're going to start with a carbon tax of $150 per ton of CO2, and we're going to gradually increase it at the rate of growth of the economy, at 2%, 3% per year, or say something like that, or maybe corrected for inflation. Then everybody knows we're going there. So then it's safe again for firms to invest in something green. Because now if they invest in something green, it may not be worth it. They're not going to go out of brown so long they're still not sure that they will actually go to green. So the biggest problem is transition risk, governments hesitating about doing the right thing. And then, of course, with that comes the risk of stranded financial assets. So if then at one point you do go green, then what will happen is that then many of these fossil fuel firms will have to write off their assets. They will have to make losses. Then they will go to the government and say, look, you change your policies, I'm going to litigate.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the court and you're going to compensate me. And there are treaties in place that give the power in the court to the polluting firms and not to the government. So that whole issue, call it green paradox, I call it transition risk, will lead to risk of stranded financial assets, which is very costly, but mainly it will lead to not enough investments in green. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea is to a last question.
Oh no, I thought we were done. Okay.
The last after we close, because in the afternoon we will talk also.
No,
better you and Elenia will talk more on this topic again.
Well, you can just you can just show this.
No, I'm not a professor enough to join.
Yeah, but anyway, neither am I.
Later in the evening.
In the evening,
But let's finish it. Yeah.
The last is so we have to speak also about hope.
Hope.
Hope for the future.
Oh,
so
well.
Maybe in artificial
You're
intelligence.
a romantic guy, aren't you?
Yes, maybe artificial intelligence could be an instrument for the future because fragmentation and so on. So we.
Yes, so I owe you an answer on artificial intelligence. So I use it. Everybody uses it.
Yeah.
So if I have to do difficult coding in MATLAB or something kind of, ChatGPT helps me. Yeah. I know people when they go on a dating site, ChatGPT helps them. So, but of course, and then of course lots of jobs will be taken over by ChatGPT. It's a super powerful thing and may even get an intelligence of its own. But one thing we know for sure, it's very, 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 very energy intensive. So there's going to be a huge demand for the energy. So this is a reason why Microsoft and other firms are investing in huge data centers, huge energy to get it done. So what's already happening in say, for example, the Netherlands and the United Kingdom, there are cities not so rich, and they say, okay, you can have a big electricity generating farm here, and none of the electricity goes to the local people. It all goes to these, to feed the beast, to feed the artificial intelligence. So yes, it is an enormous plus, artificial intelligence, but there are risks. The risks are to do with the green transition, but the risks are also to do with we don't know what will come out of it.
Yeah. So no open, neither in this case.
Conditional hope.
Conditional hope. Maybe using nuclear power for this.
Nuclear power may be helpful in the mix, but don't forget that nuclear power is expensive, and it takes many decades before you've got a station. So everybody says it, but it's not an immediate answer.
Okay.